So the Frontiers update actually changes a lot more than I initially anticipated, and we also have the new settlement feature that is a little bit more troublesome than you probably expected. Like, you definitely ran into issues with it. Maybe you don't enjoy the first pick you had, maybe you want to switch things up, or just have better upgrades in general. Well, we will talk about that in this video, and also about the full revamp of the base building system. And yes, I am calling it a revamp because there's fundamental changes in there that will make things either difficult or a little bit more easier for you depending what type of player you are. So let's jump right into it. Now, starting right up, one of the first problems you might have encountered in the new update, especially with the settlement system, is the fact that it doesn't really spawn on the planet of your choice, especially if you already set up a home world. Even more so, you're going to notice that the game, well, points you towards a completely random planet that might be undesirable to you. Do not worry, because we're gonna fix that, and the way you will do it is by just going to any space station, and specifically to one of these cartographer NPCs that will sell you one of these brand new settlement charts right here. Now, there's a few things you need to know about these charts in the first place. First of all is the fact that they are a bit more expensive compared to the other ones, so you will need about 5 navigation data for one of these charts, which is super easy to get anyway because you can find them on space stations. So just go ahead, grab a few, and then buy your first chart. From this point on, what you will want to do is to just head over to your preferred planet, whichever that would be, maybe a home world that you already settled in, or maybe a completely new one. From this point on, just create a save file just in case that chart fails, which, by the way, can totally happen. And from this point on, go ahead, activate it, and it should immediately point you towards your next settlement on the very planet you just set on. If it doesn't work, if it fails, or if it points you towards a completely different planet, just reload the save file and try again. 9 times out of 10, it should point you towards a settlement on the planet you are on, assuming there is life on that planet in the first place. Now, if for some reason you're one of those players who already claimed one of these settlements and want to switch, either because you found a better planet or because you ran into a glitch with your previous one, then yes, you can totally change to a brand new settlement, and you do so by just getting a new chart from the same NPC and then just going on a different planet or a different system and finding a next settlement. And once you pick your new settlement and choose it, you're going to get a pop-up that will notify you that your previous one will just get abandoned, so you can go ahead and continue with your new one. But before picking your new settlement, I definitely suggest you hold off a little bit and pay attention to its metrics right here, especially that productivity to maintenance cost range. You will definitely want it to be a little bit more balanced, because if your productivity is way lower compared to your maintenance cost, you will just run into debt indefinitely, and it will take you a long time before you can recover. Meanwhile, if you go with something like this, where the productivity greatly exceeds the maintenance cost, you can immediately start turning into a profit, especially after building a few more facilities on top. Now, in terms of the class, yes, I know most of the time it will mention C class, and at best you might find a B class settlement. I'm not really sure if S or A class settlements even exist out there in the wild without upgrading, but for the moment, don't, well, pay attention to it too much, because as you play, as you create new buildings, and as you go through new expeditions with your settlement and go through new objectives, you will see that class improving over time. In this case, I started with a C and immediately improved it to a B with just a couple of structures. Now, from this point on is when the fun begins, and you actually get a number of benefits from owning a settlement. You know, on top of the fact that it's actually really awesome to have your own town to manage. Well, one of these benefits is the fact that it immediately becomes one of your teleport points, kind of like any of your other bases. You just have to access it from any space station terminus or other terminals on your other bases. The other benefit is the fact that you get some really cool rewards per day, so we will talk about that, but in the meantime, here is the process you need to enable that in the first place. That begins with your immediate decisions that you have to do right as you claim your first settlement, and that has to deal with one of the first structures that you will want to build. Like, most of these kind of point you towards two possibilities immediately after you claim your first base, either to build something that will increase your productivity, like for example a market or a bazaar or some other kind of manufacturing facility, or to build something that gives happiness to your people, like a saloon or a bar or some other similar kind of structure, I definitely recommend you go ahead and build the one that increases your productivity first, as that's going to put you up ahead and it will give you the possibility to kind of do other events that might put you in debt. Like maybe at a later date you might get an event where you have to do an expedition, or maybe have a party with your settlement, and that's going to have a cost, but you have increased productivity, which means you can eat up that cost and not have to worry about going into debt too much. At the same time, I would also argue that this would be much better for your overall settlement happiness longer term, since you're going to be able to afford a lot more events and a lot more buildings that might deal with happiness, and I think that's a win-win situation right there. But nonetheless, this is how a settlement that finally becomes productive looks like. Now in this case, I believe these items that you get rewarded are random, and I think it also depends on the planet, but I got kelp sacks and non-stick pistons as rewards when I started being productive. And as you can see, we also have the production rate per day, so it takes about 20 to 24 hours for the timer to reset. In this case, I think it was only 20 hours for some reason, but it could go all the way up to 24, I think. So this is the type of item that you can expect getting from this type of a settlement. So right now it's not that great, but also it's only a C-class settlement. For some reason it downgraded, so I'm not sure what that is, but this is what you can make from a settlement like this that's barely been upgraded with a couple of buildings and barely started doing some production. Now, until we discover a lot more about the settlements and how to min-max them and get them to that max rank, let's also talk about base building, because the next big question was, can you actually create a base in the middle of a settlement? And the answer is actually yes, you can totally base build in the middle of a settlement. It's just not in the old way you think it is. So you can just go in and place a base computer, because you will get this error right here that you can't build a terminal right there. But there is a workaround, and that workaround is really simple. Simply head over between 350 to 400 units away from the center of your current settlement and place a base computer. In this case, I set it up around 370 units away, which gave me the possibility to claim a base right there and then. And from this point on, what you will want to do is to extend the limits of your current base so that it also encapsulates the settlement that is right near you. Now, normally it should already do that, but in case it doesn't, simply follow these steps. Just go ahead and grab a bunch of these walls, for example, or floors, and just place them near the border of your current base limit. Once you're there, you're going to be able to build over the limit, and this will extend the limit to however much you want to. I believe that the max is about 800 units, which is more than enough to fully encompass an entire settlement. And as you can see, the results are pretty spectacular. You can indeed build anything inside of a settlement with a base nearby. I was able to build an entire road system on my settlement simply because of that fact, and also a couple of smaller houses, but this is like a really early stage for this settlement right now for me. So there's still a lot that I could build here, like an entire landing pad and a ton of other stuff in there as well. But yes, you can totally do it as well. Now let's also finally talk about the entire new building system, which has been fully revamped. Now when you enter the build menu, you no longer have a sub menu or a quick menu, but an entire grid in itself that pops up on the screen. At the top, you will notice multiple categories that deal with all sorts of building structures, of elements. There's also the electricity one, and decoration, lighting, and so on and so forth. The three categories that are most important are going to be the timber, the stone, and finally the alloy structures, which have completely replaced the previous legacy structures with the wood, the concrete, and the metal. Now, if you have an old save file that already unlocked those specific structures in the previous updates, you will still see them under legacy section right here. Legacy structures, in this case, I only unlocked a few of them, so that's the only number that I have right now in the legacy. Unfortunately, no, you won't be able to unlock the old ones anymore, since they have been completely removed from the space station NPC, and now instead you will only be able to unlock and purchase the new base structures. I'm pretty sure that this is an oversight from Hello Games. I'm not sure if this is fully intended. I kind of have a few few reasons why, and that's because they kind of already work really well with the newer structures. Like, I tested the old wood with the new timber and they work perfectly fine, there's no problem. So I think eventually there's going to be a patch that fully addresses this. But enough of that, let's talk about the benefits of the new improved building system and the newly added items, which are plenty enough, like over 250 to 300 brand new items to build bases out of. So there's a number of benefits from them, and the first benefit, I believe, is also the reason why Hello Games thought of removing the legacy structures, and that is the fact that the new structures already support electricity and already have electricity inside them by default without requiring any wiring. And you heard that right, you can go ahead, you can create these and they're gonna immediately support any light sources without having to use any wiring. You can just place them on the ceiling, especially the lighting sources, just place them on a wall or a ceiling and they will immediately light up without needing any energy. This only works for light sources, not for some of the other machineries that might require full-on electricity, like maybe a portal terminus or maybe a standing planter or some other kind of farming apparatus. Yeah, those still require energy to function and you will need to use cables and energy generation to create them. But for lighting sources, that's a huge plus right there, on top of the fact that they also look really amazing. The second big benefit that you get from the improved building menu is, of course, the fact that for the first time ever, yes, you can place one of these walls straight under the base computer, even if you already claimed the base, which was not previously possible. This means you can fully integrate the base computer right inside of the first building that you build without much of a hassle, and you no longer have to have that exposed out to the elements and also risk maybe dying because of some severe storm or whatever. There's plenty other benefits in there because of the new build menu, and the next one is going to be, of course, the free camera that changed a little bit. Now you will have to press the B button, but you can see the shortcuts right there with the screen pop-up. You have a smaller menu that pops up when you actually go into base building, so you can press B, for example, on the keyboard and mouse to go into the free camera mode. The second button, which just became even more important, is the free placement button, or button V on the keyboard. It essentially removes the snapping, which is, you know, when you place a structure next to the other, which automatically kind of lights it up and puts it right where it needs to be. If you remove that, you're gonna enter into a free mode of placement, which is going to let you adjust that however you want to, especially when you don't have straight lines or straight corridors or any other structures that don't properly align. In this case, you can kind of do that a little bit more freely. It doesn't remove the benefits of glitch building, by the way. It makes things much easier than ever before, but glitch building had a few more benefits on top, including the creation of really crazy structures. But it is helpful with, for example, creating roads more easily without you know, having any problem with making a circular road, for example, in case that is needed. Now, this is so far most of the biggest tips that I had for you guys. Of course, I really enjoyed the new base building. I think that it is definitely much more improved, and I really enjoy the new parts a lot more than in any update so far. But there's a few shortcomings that if Hello Games kind of fixes, I can see this becoming the best version of base building yet. Totally let me know down below what is your opinion of the new update. What class did you manage to bring your settlement to? So yeah, leave that comment down below and I'll see you guys in the next video.